Hurricane Helene, I mentioned this earlier, it has killed at least 227 people across North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida also affected. That was 2 weeks ago. And it was catastrophic for people in the southeast of the country. Over 100,000 people in North Carolina still do not have power.
The satellite imagery of that at the night skies and the wake of, clearly powerless regions just wiped out by the course of the hurricane.
And what to make matters worse, right now, Hurricane Milton is growing into a Category 5 storm over the Caribbean
Huge.
2 weeks after this devastation. And it's expected to make landfall in Florida tomorrow. Folks in Florida, please stay safe and evacuate if you can. I know that's not possible for many people, but between 10 p.m. Wednesday and 2 a.m. in the morning on early Thursday, so Wednesday night, it's set to head straight to Tampa, and workers there are still clearing debris all across the southeast, not just in Florida, but in the other states that I mentioned from Helene. Milton is set to bring around 10 to 15 foot storm surges across the Florida coast, particularly where it hits in Tampa. And there will be tornado risks for millions of people all across the state tomorrow. These are the conditions that climate scientists and meteorologists like NBC6's John Morales have been warning about and fearing for decades. Here he is. He's the longest tenured TV meteorologist in South Florida, getting emotional just talking about what Milton will bring to the state.
It's just an incredible hurricane. It has dropped It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific. Maximum sustained winds are 160 miles per hour, and it is just gaining strength in the Gulf of Mexico, where you can imagine the winds, the seas are just so incredibly hot, record hot, as you might imagine. You know what's driving that. I don't need to tell you. Global warming, climate change, leading to this and becoming an increasing threat for the Yucatan, including Mérida and Progreso and other areas there. Let's see if I can show you the latest. There's the Cat 5 information. Winds 160 miles per hour, moving east-southeast at 9 miles per hour. And on that track, you're going to notice that this system is going to come very close to the Yucatan, and the dirty side of this hurricane, folks, is on the right-hand side of its progress. So therefore, they're going to get the dirty side there. These communities, many of them, as you might imagine, many folks, in that area have just the very basics, nothing else but that. So it's going to be very tough. Now let's transition to Florida, because even though it is expected to weaken on approach, it is so incredibly strong right now that you're going to find it very difficult for it to be nothing less than a major hurricane when it makes landfall in Florida.
You can see just the severity of the situation. Let's pull this up as well. This is another meteorologist, Noah Berggren. This is what he writes. This is nothing short of astronomical. I am at a loss for words to meteorologically describe to you the storm's small eye and intensity. 897 MB. I'm not sure what the unit is, but pressure with 180 miles per hour, max sustained winds and gusts of 200 plus miles per hour. This is now the fourth strongest hurricane ever recorded by pressure on this side of the world. The eye is tiny at nearly 3.8 miles wide. The hurricane is nearing the mathematical limit of what Earth's atmosphere over this ocean water can produce. DSA Aaron in Atlanta writes, saying, I've seen a lot of experts say that if there was a category 6 category, Milton would be a category 6.
Yeah, apparently that's Millibar.
Thank you for that. It's extremely terrifying what we're seeing right now. And I just want to remind people that earlier this year, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, signed into law a deletion of climate change from all Florida policy. Just read the beginning of this just to underscore the insanity. Florida state government will no longer be required to consider climate change when crafting energy policy under legislation signed Wednesday by Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican. The new law, which passed the Florida state legislature in March and takes effect on July 1st, will also prohibit the construction of offshore wind turbines in state waters and will repeal state grant programs that encourage energy conservation and renewable energy. The legislation also deletes requirements that state agencies use climate-friendly products and purchase fuel-efficient vehicles, and it prevents any municipality from restricting the type of fuel that can be used in an airplane, such as a gas stove, airplane. Gosh, I don't know why I'm misreading this morning. I should probably wear my glasses, but I just never, for vanity is more important in this situation. But I mean, Brian Grimm pointed this out this morning on Twitter, that Florida's also, it banned consideration of climate change in those areas, but also in its zoning and other regulatory policies, which are going to affect the homes that are going to be damaged by this. There's a reason that many home insurance companies are refusing to even cover homes in Florida. Like, as we hear drill baby drill by Trump, this is what just puts a stone in my stomach. I mean, it makes me feel sick what we're approaching here. And frankly, the Democrats have not done enough. I mean, the infrastructure bill was good, but Biden is still offsetting some of the gains from the clean energy policies of his administration by making us the #1 oil producer in the world by many metrics. We've been pumping a lot of oil under his administration. So this is a problem that the Democrats are not meeting in the way that they should. But the prospect of another Trump administration in this regard, God, it terrifies me, because this is just going to get worse.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing that American government should be spending billions and billions toward, and not sort of really sort of bad projects in the Middle East. I also saw a nurse in North Carolina saying something about what we don't need now is sort of alarmism and sort of all this misinformation about like FEMA either killing people or just neglecting people. The real issue is the medium-term recovery after this. Well, first, the immediate issue, like for this hurricane now, is to get people to safety. And then afterwards, it's what happens like after the media attention leaves, right? How are we actually helping build these people back up? I mean, these sorts of things, there should be national insurance programs and sort of things, because clearly the market's not going to fix it in Florida. And this needs to be a deliberate national strategy. And it'd be nice to have, all that money we spend towards, counterinsurgency, and how much money we give the Pentagon every year would be going towards how do we make sure that if this stuff happens, which I think we all agree it's going to happen more and more, are we ready to help communities repair themselves and also avoid death on the front end? Right.
I mean, we have no resiliency that's built into our system in that regard. And that's in part because of Republicans and their belief in markets being able to decide the situation as efficiently as possible. But we see, as Matt just alluded to, with these insurance companies, they feel like the payout is too great for them to cover an entire state in many ways, because of how we've constructed our society and how this one of the most populous states in the country, Florida, is on the front lines of the worst of climate change's effects. That does not mean that the private market can solve this situation. In fact, it's just throwing an entire population to the wolves, because we don't have the public option that could mitigate this, or the requirements for these insurance companies, at the very least, to cover these homes.
And we talk about, like, you know, and this is a side thought, but the lack of meaning for young men. I'm somebody who toyed with joining the military until I turned, like, saw what the Iraq War was and be like, I'm not going to do that. Imagine being any kind of whatever gender, a national service where you're going to help join a squad, because the Marines and like all sorts of different National Guard is deployed out there. What if that's what you're signing up for? I'm not going to sign up to actually like go kill people, but it's going to be wherever something happens in this country, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be expert in that. I think, like, where's the vision for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, and there hasn't really been enough of a vision of that for my entire lifetime. I remember the victims of Hurricane Katrina standing on top of roofs and begging for the federal government to help them because of this ideology. And this should be a moment where climate skeptics, by the way, reflect on their position. But we're in a situation where our politics are just ill-equipped to deal with this. I mean, after every mass shooting event, we have no meaningful gun control. How many decades has it been since Columbine? And yet we have broad consensus, even more so than on climate change's effects. And all we get out of the Republicans are more guns and more drill, baby, drill. And then for Democrats, it's more just like mitigation as opposed to a bold vision on this front, which...
empowering the people who might be small business or business owners in it.
But that's what, I mean, honestly, that's what the Green New Deal was actually kind of a good step in that direction that AOC spearheaded, and along with Bernie Sanders and others. And at the time, Harris had been signed off on it in the Senate and now has since abandoned that. But the idea of connecting building up resiliency to climate change, to public jobs and public service, and building that economy as well, connecting economic opportunity with a new green vision is what the Democrats should be doing right now. Because as we see, what the Republican answer is privatize everything and leave you on the front lines of the worst of climate change's effects as the leading candidate, or as the candidate for the Republicans for president. Chance drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, and use it as a political football or to engender psychosis like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.